Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum to another show. Welcome to another show. Welcome to another show here with the Richard and Co show on Newcastle Fast FM. Tonight we have a very special guest. We have a brother, Alyas Karmani, who has been a psychologist for 30 years, an imam for 20 years, and has been a counselor since then, and international speaker. He's a public international speaker, and he talks a lot about the community, the mental health, leadership, the sabr, the patience, and other issues as well. Obviously, his forte as well, as part of his forte, is the mental health, which we will touch on upon tonight. I also have with me today brother Suhail, inshallah. Brother Suhail, how are you doing?
Alaikum. I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you, man?
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Brother Alyas, you need to unmute yourself on Skype.
Unmute your microphone.
Yes, there we go. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Alhamdulillah, so good to be with all of you, brothers, alhamdulillah, and reconnect with Newcastle and the northeast, alhamdulillah. I've got to say, as someone who travels a lot, the brothers, the Muslim community in the northeast is one of the most welcoming and one of the most open-hearted communities, mashallah, that I come across. And although, you know, we are social distancing at the moment, alhamdulillah, our hearts are connected.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, akhi. So, now with the... Sorry, come on.
I just say well done to the Geordies.
With the coronavirus and COVID-19 and the bit isolation, obviously the Prime Minister in the hospital and critically in a situation at the minute. What do you think of the situation?
Well, obviously that's a really open-ended question. What do I think of the situation at the moment? And what I will say regarding the situation at the moment is this. When all of this is finished, some people will emerge as true shuhada and true people who have made jihad in the way of Allah. And other people will, when they really assess themselves and when they really, they do this muhasibah, personal account of themselves, will realize they failed this massive test. And that they actually, were not true, what we call وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى, were not true to their Islamic values, their Islamic akhlaq and the adab. And what's also going to emerge as well, inshallah, from this, is that what we should really value in our society and what we should really prioritize, and that I also, that there are people who are going to give selfless service to insan, do the khidmah of insan. Many of them are not Muslims, by the way, helping all people of all backgrounds, subhanallah. And we have to change our views as a community, which sometimes actually sees other people as lesser. And the verse which more than anything I think describes our current situation is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in many ways this is a test. حَاسِبُ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. So Allah Ta'ala, He says, do people think they'll be left alone saying آمَنَّا, we believe, and that Allah will not test them? لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. And the term here, comes, the term fitna, is referred to here, and يُفْتَنُونَ. And the term fitna in the Arabic, it comes from the Arabic word fatan, which means the purification of gold.
Yeah.
And so when you get the raw, what they call gold ore, it contains gold as well as many impurities. And you put this then through a smelting process whereby the pure gold comes out on one side and the impurities, the najasa, comes out on the other side. And that is what is the definition of a fitna. It is a means by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there to test you personally as a community, to remove from you your impurities. And then Allah Ta'ala after that says, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَا الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. So Allah Ta'ala tested, again the same thing, fitna, trials, مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ, people before you. Why? فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا. To become aware, cognizant. Allah wants to know those people who are Siddiq, وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ, from those people who are liars. And that is it. As I said, at the end of this, we're going to see the true shuhada. May Allah Ta'ala, inshallah, give the status of shuhada of all of those who have passed away through this hardship and this difficulty. Ameen.
Allahumma ameen.
And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate those people who have really sacrificed and put the lives of other people before their own lives. Subhanallah. And I've got to say, all these people, I have to say, who have been going on for 30 years, I've seen going on about this for the Muslim community and that for the Muslim community, you know. I don't see them as being leaders at the moment. I have to say, and this might be a very negative point, the people who are the leaders are always the ones who are behind the scenes getting on with stuff.
We'll get to this, you know? But for the time being, I can see from your opening statement, and I did this on purpose. Yes. I didn't want to lead you into any questions, because we usually ask, how are you, how are you feeling, how did you take the news, how did the family take the news? But I think we've asked enough brothers and imams and experts on the topic, and I want you just to see, what do you think of this situation? Now, subhanAllah, what you said, now we're talking about psychology here and subconscious. What you said, basically what you see, there's a great hardship, it's also a test, there's a great rewards for those who persevere in that test. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we need to ask you tonight, between me and my brother Suhail, about how do you think we should be coping to start with such, what's the technique to cope with this pressure?
Okay. You see, one of the interesting things about the question, how should we be dealing with this situation? And I think, again, this falls into two interesting categories. Those people who have already been training for this all their lives. And those people, and therefore they are proactive. They actually know how to deal with this situation with wasitiyah, with balance, with sabr, with istiqamah. And you find that these people do not flip-flop. This is the key indication of someone who is upon wasitiyah. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَكُمْ أُمَّةٌ وَسِطًا. You know, we have made you upon the balanced way. Is that you're not flip-flopping. One day you're saying this, next day you're saying that, then you're jumping on this, then you're jumping on that, this conspiracy here, that conspiracy there. No, there is a consistency in how you deal with the situation. Okay, in terms of every aspect of your behavior, completely. So one group of people, I have to say, they've already, they are the ones who this is something which has been, although it's a challenging situation, is not that something that's caused them to panic, nor is it caused them to feel anxious or unstable. Look what Allah says, وَلَا تَحِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Do not fear, do not grieve, you will be successful if you're a mu'min. You will not have this anxiety and stress if you have been equipping yourselves to deal with the fitna, because she knew that the trial was coming. And that's why I said this is a real interesting thing. We're really seeing who are وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. You know, when we make, we're really seeing this. And then the other group of people are totally reactive. And I have to say this about the masajid as well. You know, Richard, you know, so I really have to say this was a massive missed opportunity for the Muslim community, locally and globally. Let me tell you why. Because surely we are thought leaders. Are we thought leaders or are we thought catchers up? I ask you.
Are we thought leaders? Sorry?
Are we thought leaders or are we thought? We're leaders in thought and in thinking and in action.
Yeah, we should supposedly.
You know this book? Yeah. You know the book by John Adair, who is the leading guru on leadership, in particular what we call action-centered leadership. Yeah, and his book on the leadership of the Prophet ﷺ, because he regarded him as the ultimate leader in action-centered leadership. Okay. You know, look, the Prophet ﷺ said, you know this principle around quarantine, around social distancing, around how to deal with a contagion, food security. These are Islamic principles. Yeah. And Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh exemplified them in his when he was Khalifa. and the contagion took place in Sham, and how he dealt with this. The point here is this: we should have closed down our masajid before even being asked. Do you know that? Okay,
Right.
because we should have, but you know, because we should have assessed the facts, the information, and we should have acted. And we should have been the leaders saying, look, you guys, what are you doing staying open when this is the way that we should be dealing with it? It's food security. We should have been, as soon as we had the indication of that, we should have been doing our food projects to collect the food, because there's a beautiful hadith in Riyadh al-Salihin. And it goes, in the time of hardship in Medina, there was a group of people, the Prophet ﷺ called them the Ash'urun. Okay? And this group of people would put a sheet out. Everyone would come out of their houses. They would put all of their food into this blanket, into the sheet. And then it would be distributed equally to everyone back. And this is about food security. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said regarding this, they are from me and I am from them. Now, I've just given two principles, leave alone the principle of contagion and dealing with contagion. Now, we've been given this guidance, but why are we always reactive behind the curve? And why is it within our community, all we do is just fight amongst ourselves, and we do not have a consistency in approach? And then, you know, one of the things I saw in many of these kind of, we have to straight talk here.
Okay.
I remember there was a talk, and there was an Islamic mufti, and there was a doctor who was a doctor of epidemiology and you could say infectious disease. And these two people were discussing the issue. The Maulvi did not like being upstaged.
Well,
even
we're
though
talking
the
about intentions here, bro. When you say
no,
we're gonna go back to this point. But what you said
no,
earlier.
it's not intention.
Okay,
but
what you said earlier.
Yeah,
It's just
go
about
ahead.
a point you mentioned earlier, that we should have been more reactive to it. Now, we had a couple of imams here on the show. We had Imam Abdul Basit, we had Imam Walid, we had also Sheikh Abdul Qadir, and the one theme, they all imam in the mosques, and they all discussed and shared with us what they did. Now, for example, the common theme there was resistance to actually close down the mosque, to do with the attachment and probably other considerations. But once they have the word from a doctor, Ahl al-Dhikr, they said, okay, we're closing it down. So
Richard, you know, I disagree. I saw a lot of cases, and the doctor
That's what I wanted to ask
not
you.
just
So I've seen how many other cases that did not actually agree with this.
No. In Bradford, this didn't happen. In many other masajid, this did not happen. Where and I don't know. I'm not going to get into particular cases, but I think overall, you see, this is the problem. You know, Allah Ta'ala, He says, "Ati Allah wa ati Rasul wa ulil amri minkum." And as you said, Ahl al-Dhikr. Okay, the people of knowledge, the people of understanding, the people who are well versed in knowledge, and the people who are in authority in these matters. These are experts. And you know, it makes Islam a religion which is seen as irrational and illogical, and it doesn't deal with reality. When we defy facts, evidence, knowledge, information, expert witness, and instead we choose what? Idiots talking without knowledge. بغير علم ولا تقف ما ليس لك به علم. Allah says, do not pursue that which you have no knowledge. Allah Ta'ala, He says, you know, okay, بنبأ فتبينوا. If someone brings you news, verify it. Allah Ta'ala says, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ إِنْ يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَإِنْهُمْ لَا يَخْرُصُونَ. If you follow most of the people on earth, they will mislead you from Allah's path. They follow nothing but conjecture and lies. The point here is this: people prefer fake news and emotion over expert witness. And you know why it is? Because Maulvis, and I'm going to say it, and people don't like it, Sheikhs, Maulvis, Imams, they don't like to play second fiddle. They've got massive egos.
That's a bit generalizing here, bro.
No, you might not like my point. I see, because look, the expert is there, and he's saying to you two things. Look, I spoke today, you know, bros, I spoke today to a consultant in emergency medicine in a London hospital. Okay, and he's telling me he's dealing every day in the intensive care unit in his hospital, He is a consultant level. That means the highest level. My oldest brother, he's a consultant spinal surgeon for the last 20 years. Okay, I've been talking to him. He's now been redeployed in emergency medicine. When we talk to the experts, they're telling us certain things, okay, about what it is. And one of the things they said is that in our community, more than any other community, we are more at risk due to what we call comorbidity factors and the extended family networks that we are in that create an increased viral load and transmission, of the. So therefore, we are not like other communities. Okay, we have to be more proactive. But maybe I'm wrong. But I want to know, why is it that people in our community seem to have a problem listening to experts?
Yeah, could I throw my 2 cents in on this one? Because I think this is a very, very good discussion. Some aspect. Because, I mean, to be honest with you, for us here in the Northeast, I think sometimes it feels like we're in our little bubble. And it's an amazing bubble if you think about it. Because the Northeast is a special place, all right? And I mean a special place in a good way, right? Because what you're saying to me, it sounds like what you're saying is something that didn't happen in the Northeast. What I mean is that when you're talking about these imams and these Maulvis and these people who are doing all this different kind of stuff and not closing the masajid and whatever else, we did that here. We had our imams who were very proactive, especially our beloved Imam Abdul Basit, Imam Walid from Abu Bakr Mosque as well. These guys were very proactive in making sure the masajid was closed early. I mean, I think when Imam Abdul Basit came on, he said that he was one of the first ones to do it. And I spoke to Imam Abdul Basit personally because he was saying to me things like, look, even if one person catches it, one of our elders catch it, we could potentially be looking at being the cause of one of our elders dying.
No, absolutely. And you know,
that's what I mean, though, bro. I think in the case of like the bubble of the Northeast, I think we were very quick to start having meetings and like that. I'm talking from the imam side of things. The imams were very quick to have meetings and stop and close the masajid early. But I do take your point on board.
It was actually the committees that was resistant.
Okay. What I would describe, I think there are 3 interesting elements here. There's one model of a masjid where what you have is very informed people who are worldly, who have access to expert knowledge, who are able to analyze that within an Islamic concept and the maqasid of the Sharia and come to a very balanced position. In another mosque, you have the complete opposite of that. You have people who are really unworldly, live in a bubble, and are not really able to even comprehend or understand expert knowledge and guidance, and do not even have access to that information. And then there's a third group of people, and I believe they are individuals who have their own agenda, and they put their own agenda above the welfare of the whole community. And it's not just Muslims, by the way, here. It's the non-Muslims, by the way, because we interact every day with non-Muslims.
I think you're right.
I want to give you an example here. You know, quite early on, maybe about 2 weeks ago, you might remember then when the emergency COVID bill came out, there was hysteria within minutes on social media space that Muslim bodies are going to be cremated. Okay. I don't even react to this stuff. Do you know why I don't react to this stuff, Sahil?
Why?
I knew it would never go through. And guess what? It didn't go through.
Yeah.
So how is it that I knew it would never go through and it didn't go through? How's that? Whereas the lay people are running around like madmen, screaming and shouting that we're going to be cremated, we're going to do this, we're do that. When the real people, and I'm on various groups in contact daily with key policymakers, I don't want to get into too much detail and specifics. I'm talking to key policymakers who are able to actually influence policy, not write these silly petitions, not waste time flapping around with conspiracy theories, actual people who make the decisions that affect us on a national level. And these individuals, they had a clear strategy, and when it went to the Parliament, the amendment to the bill was made. End of. Okay? And so all of those people who reacted straight away, and I knew loads of people reacted straight away, One has to ask, why do they react? What was the possible purpose of their reaction? And I want to make it clear, their reaction did not influence these change makers. We were already doing our job behind the scenes. Okay, and there are lots of people, and I say that we don't want anyone to pat us on the back. We don't want any awards. We don't want anyone to say this, that. This is for the sake of Allah, and only for the pleasure of Allah. That we just get on with it, and we just engage the levers of change and influence, and we propose balanced policy responses. Alhamdulillah. And I want to make one point very, very clear. The Jewish lobby were integral in terms of ensuring that the Muslims also had their funeral rights met in this country as well. And without them on this issue, okay, it might have been a different outcome. So let's be absolutely clear here. I think this whole approach, even sometimes I call it a Muslim first approach, that we only think about our own community. No, I think if anything, COVID, this crisis is getting us to recognize that we are part of a bigger community. And you know what, I've got to say, you brothers up there more than anyone else, alhamdulillah, have these values and these ethos, because I know you're very integrated with your local communities, alhamdulillah. And I think other parts of the country, they're going to have to start playing catch it. It can't be that we are, like I said, kind of detached from the other communities that are around us. No, we care about everyone in society.
Absolutely. I mean, just to go on, just to make a point on that, I saw a post from our local masjid, the Newcastle Central Masjid, who are now working closely with the Newcastle Council for anyone who's got symptoms of COVID-19. They're actually delivering and being involved in supporting them for giving them free emergency care packs. So you're right. We have to be involved. We have to get involved, especially now. Is an opportunity for us to be integrated and be involved in the community and working with the community. And I do think
I think we also have to stop having a victim mentality here. That somehow these policies are deliberately brought about, okay, and these actions are deliberately brought out to somehow just harm Muslims. Yeah. Please, we need to stop this nonsense. I have to say, there is not someone sitting in the shadows, licking their lips. Oh, this is really going to harm Muslims. Oh, I'm going to do this. No, this is not
Illuminati, bro.
Huh?
The Illuminati, bro.
And so this comes on conveniently to the next thing, which is about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Okay.
And really, if I can cap here something. So just to recap, sorry. So what we're talking about here, that some mosques, from your experience, have failed in the leadership to take a role in the community by actually being leaders and take first steps, some mosques, to close first and prepare the food parcels for those who's going to be in need once this situation got worsened. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
And your concerns here is also about issues about the leadership of some of those leaders.
Look at this verse. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, and you have concerns about the leadership of some of those leaders in the communities, that they should be playing more to their role within the community. So that's your concerns.
Look, I think if I sum up my concerns, I think what I want to see emerging from this now is that for a long time we've spoken about our institutions need to improve. Our masajid need to be improved. There needs to be handover from those people who have been gatekeepers and who have actually failed to actually really make the masjid something which is a real community entity. And I think now people have to step up. People really have to step up and say, look, to the elders, with respect to them, we acknowledge the good work that they've done. We need to have a handover. And people need to start to take their responsibilities quite seriously. I've been talking a lot about, I've actually going to do a webinar in a couple of days on leadership. And I'm talking much more about leadership at the moment rather than COVID-19. And based on the prophetic model of leadership, because I think this is being now, we shouldn't all become totally preoccupied with COVID. I think there are certain people who are thinking, okay, once COVID is over, what's the next one coming down the line? Okay, and that's what I'm working on. I'm working on 1 year's time, 9 months' time, a year's time. Let's work in terms of, and my leadership program is called, I'm not pitching it at all or anything, but the leadership challenge 2040. So I'm looking at 20 years time, in terms of what will leadership look like, and what is our leadership geared for the next 20 years of challenge. Allahu Akbar, it's this another one of the key things about what's happening is that this should connect us more on a global level, because this has affected everyone globally, subhanAllah. As you said, even the Prime Minister, I had a call from Pakistan today, and people are suffering so much there, Allahu Akbar, really, with the lockdown, because of the levels of poverty there already. And we are so blessed that we have the infrastructure available to us. I read an article yesterday regarding Bangladesh, and they're saying that there will be up to 2 million mortalities in due to COVID, related to COVID in Bangladesh, because of poverty. People are dying of poverty. Allahumma musta'an, really. This is the world we're living in.
Yes.
And I think, we have to recognize our global responsibility, and our global need to the local should affect the global. We're all being affected by this, subhanAllah.
Subhanallah. So,
well, you're absolutely right, bro. You're absolutely right. It is something that's affecting all of us. And again, I see where you're coming from, because if I do look around the rest of the country, I did see a lot of things happening that shouldn't have been happening from the Muslim community. For example, like you're saying, people still going to the masjid when they shouldn't be. People still going out and about when they shouldn't be. And I think what you'll find is there was a mentality, and the mentality was something like this. It was like, no, it's qadar life, I get it, no problem. Allah, it's qadar life, I get it. And I think people misunderstood what that actually meant, what it actually meant by the qadar of Allah. I think that was a big issue that took place. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, do you know what it is? Is this not only? Yeah, you're right. There is this mentality. If I die, I die. And look, so if I die, this is qadr of Allah. We have iman. We accept this.
Yeah.
Okay. Weeks and weeks before I was doing tafsir of Surah Al-Mulk, Allah Ta'ala has power and control over everything. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. You know what? Which is that He created death. He gave us life. He's testing us. Which one of us is best in action? We will all die. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Yes. But you know what, Sahil? I'd rather have as many years as I can of trying to do hasanat. Okay, I want more years of good deeds, inshallah. That's what I want to try to do, inshallah, yeah? And if it comes, it comes. We're not scared. Alhamdulillah, we're not scared. We don't fear this reality. But we're not reckless people. And it makes us a joke if we just show reckless abandon and we put other people's lives at risk as well. Okay, if you want to go and risk your own life, but you're not. You're not just risking it, because you will come into contact with other human beings.
yes.
Well, bro, to be honest with you, what I heard was a lot of people were saying it was more of a bravado thing. It was like, how dare you sit at home, being scared of the virus? That's what it came across like.
And this is exactly what happened when Umar ibn al-Khattab, al-Faruq, radiallahu an, when he came to Sham, Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah, radiallahu an, he said to him, there's contagion here. So Umar said that, okay, we will leave. He said, are you fleeing from the qadr of Allah?
Yeah.
He said this to Umar ibn al-Khattab, and he said, if anyone else had said this, I would have dealt with it, yeah?
And Umar ibn Khattab said, I'm fleeing from the...
He said the likes of, we are leaving the qadr of Allah to the qadr of Allah.
True, true.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, but we need to clarify something here. The thing is, all what we've seen in the Muslim community is coming across all the communities. Some of the members of our community are not abiding by the law or reacting quick enough, as well as the other parts of the communities. When you see the news, when people sunbathing, they're not Muslims. Well, as far as I know, they're not Muslims.
Yes.
So there is lots of other members of the community, other communities who are not adhering to it. What we're saying is there's a minority in our community, inshallah, minority, they're not sticking to the rules, which is the rules of the land, and they should be taking more responsibility of their actions because of especially what's going on at the minute. So with the leadership, Brother Alyas, what do you have? We're going to talk about the leadership and the individual in terms of tips, how they can sorry, how can they actually cope with what's going on at the minute? Inshallah, be also on the right path of Sunnah.
Thing about this,
Your your connection is failing. Your connection is failing, Brother Alyas. We need to call you back. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, he's.
Call me too.
Yeah, I'll call him back. Sorry, brothers and sisters, it's just the connection with the Brother Ilyas wasn't as good, so we'll call him back, inshallah, just to address the issue of the connection. As we may know that everybody at the minute is obviously home and using the internet heavily, so there's no surprise that the connection is not as good. Brother Ilyas, you back with us? Yeah, the connection is still not good.
is using device that could record over. Bro, I don't know. Everything's the same as it is with my phone.
Okay, no, your back is good, so you can be back now. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So we're talking about
can you
the
hear me
tips
okay?
for the leaders. Yeah, we're talking about the tips for the leaders, as well as tips for the individuals, how to cope in such a situation.
Okay. So the first thing is this hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everyone has a leadership role at various different ways. Even, if you are a child, you can be a leader over the younger children. Okay, if you and it goes up from the top all the way to the bottom. There are many levels, and you need to fulfill that leadership responsibility. So this is something quite important. How do we fulfill the relationship responsibility? There are a whole range, and when we look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it begins with a certain type of akhlaq and adab. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam came, as we know, to establish akarram al-akhlaq. Allah says, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلِقٍ عَظِيمٍ. He was the most exalted in character. So a very important aspect of leadership role is having being clear about what your values are. And when we look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the values which define him, I'm going to talk about 4 of them, although there are more. The values which define him and define his leadership style. Of course, the Prophet was Sadiq al-Amin before he was al-Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. So this is an important thing, being Sadiq al-Amin before al-Rasul. It means that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he built his credit with the society through being recognized as being trustworthy and having integrity in speech and in deed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very important thing. You build your credit with even your very enemies, the people who don't even like you, people who have no connection with you. But you know what? They can't fault your character. And they can't fault your level of integrity. And integrity means that you are completely congruent, but how you deal with the people is completely consistent in speech and in deed.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big problem, in amongst many of us. And the reason a lot of us obviously fail in the leadership, we fail in value number 1. We don't have integrity.
Mm-hmm.
We're driven by a personal agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at this hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, a man, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what will cause the people, Allah to love me and the people to love me? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, azhud fi dunya yuhibbukullah. If you leave the world, Allah will love you. And if you leave what people love, then the people will love you. So what is this? I act only to please my Creator, la jaza'an wa la kafura, seeking nothing from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's a leader. And we call this servant leadership. And it's also in the books, John Adair's book as well. The Prophet ﷺ served other people before he served himself. And there is a statement that goes, the best servant is the best leader, and the best leader is the best servant.
Mm-hmm.
And the way of the Prophet ﷺ and the Khulafa Rashidin al-Mahdi'in, that look at Umar and Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali radiallahu anhuma, they devoted themselves, they serving others, and when they became leaders, They served people even more. They saw it as personal responsibility. Quality number one of a leader, integrity. And there's a hadith, integrity. As-sidq is the pinnacle of husn al-khuluq. As-sidq yahdi al-bir wa inna al-bir yahdi al-jannah, because it leads to the path of goodness and paradise. Number two, quality, rahmah. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He came as a mercy to all the world. And so a leader can have integrity. It can be very, very competent and effective, but you genuinely care about people. You care about human beings. You care. And look, we are not feeding people now at the moment, and we are not helping people now because we want awards. We do not want to show, look at what I'm doing. No. We do it purely because it is the right thing to do, and we care about human beings. And I could go at length, but it's coming up to Salat al-Maghrib time, so I'm just going to.
Jazakallah khair.
The first is as-sidq, and the second one is ar-rahmah. Now, number two is a very important one. It is al-ilm, knowledge.
Okay.
Now, one of the things I found, obviously, Islam began with Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, and this is in itself, you cannot be a leader unless you study, you learn, you understand, you have a deep analytical ability, that you are completely worldly, you know what's going on in your environment, that you are connected to what's happening on in terms of a global level. You need to have knowledge and understanding. And in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, if he had the choice, he was going to appoint an official, and one was a muttaqi, but the other person was not as muttaqi, but was more competent.
Yeah,
had more ihsan. Yeah, he chose the competent, not the muttaqi.
Yeah.
Because, he wanted someone who was capable of doing the job. And so now this whole comes back to, you do not find the Prophet ﷺ flip-flopping. He has vision, and he is sticking to the vision. And I always say, to show the example of that, Allah gave the vision in Makkah. Inna a'ataynaka al-kawthar. We have given you al-kawthar, abundance. And then that took 20 years to realize it, because إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ came 20 years after that verse. In those 20-year period, the Prophet ﷺ is sticking to the vision, and he does not react.
I'm sorry, but Al-Kawthar is a river in the heaven, no?
Yeah, I know, but this verse, it has two meanings.
Okay.
It obviously has referring to Hawd al-Kawthar, but also Kathirun as well, that we have bestowed upon you, Inna a'ataynaka al-Kawthar, we have bestowed upon you abundance.
Okay.
And this was in a time in Makkah when the Prophet ﷺ was persecuted after the death of his son Ibrahim, and the Quraysh were making fun of the Prophet ﷺ. How are you going to have Kathirun? How are you going to have abundance when you don't even have a son? And this is about vision, and sticking to your vision.
Inshallah.
Now, the point here is this. Look, as I mentioned earlier, a leader assesses the knowledge and the facts based on ulil amr, not on the lay people. And so, look, if you want to source, specialist equipment for burial, do you ask a lay person on the street, or do you go to an expert in funeral matters who has expertise of 20, 30 years that is verified by other people in the profession? You go to experts. But I find it ajib that people want to be leaders. And I'll give you another example of that. There's a lot of people that intend to do good. They want to do lots of good. But they don't achieve this good because they don't want to do the hard learning that is required. I'm currently writing a chapter at the moment. Okay. And the number of papers I have to read. I'm reading 100 papers to write one chapter.
Allahu Akbar.
Now I could just write a chapter and just say, but no, you have to have a discipline. I have to study the matter with depth in order to come up with this idea. Now, another example is this. I see this a lot in humanitarian work between amateurs and professionals. An amateur says, I'm going to fill up an ambulance. And then they think they're doing good things. They fill up an ambulance and they go to a refugee camp to find in the refugee camp 30,000 people.
Mm.
How are you going to distribute one ambulance? And the cost for you to get that ambulance there was more than the person who filled up 10 lorries, because they're able to purchase at a much better rate.
Mm.
It's the difference between the amateur and the professional.
Okay.
But the amateur doing it not, they think they're a leader, but really they've got their own agenda.
Mhm.
That's all I can. So this is the third quality, which is about be a person of knowledge, understanding facts and evidence.
Inshallah. We came to the end of time because Maghrib is just a minute now, and we'll have to pray the Maghrib.
So, okay, inshallah, Jazakallah khair
Inshallah.
for this opportunity. Hope to
Jazakallah
be
khair.
back with you. And we need to do another show, maybe talking about the mental health issues, inshallah.
Well, I think we still need to talk about the individuals as well. There's a few points from here that hasn't actually been addressed. So inshallah we'll address them inshallah next week, the same time on Fast FM. Okay.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Dear brothers and sisters, thank you for joining us today. Today we talk with Brother Alyas. He's an imam, he's a consultant, he's a counselor, and he's a psychologist. So he's been doing the job for a long time, and he shared his concerns and observations about how some of the mosques and some of the leaders in the Muslim community have not acted upon the imminent dangers that we have. But alhamdulillah, eventually we did. And he also mentioned a few qualities about the leadership, how it should be, inshallah, including having integrity, having honesty, and have knowledge, inshallah, and be competent with their work. Next week, inshallah, wait for us at the same time, same day, with another interview with the brother Alays Karmani to understand more from him about the individual traits, inshallah, and also maybe go into the mental issues that we may face in such a isolation, and how can we cope with it. Jazakumullah khair. Please keep safe, stay well, stay safe, and stay tuned, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.